In the last quarter of 2025, I was trying to reach TBR Zero, and I have to confess that I kind of failed. Hey, what's up? My name is Daniela and welcome to a new video. Welcome to another episode in my TBR Zero series. This is part 2 of my vlogs where I try to reach TBR Zero. And this video does end with me reaching TBR Zero, so where is the failure, you might ask? Well, fortunately, I was reading a lot in the last quarter of 2025, and I did manage to reach TBR Zero, but the part where I failed is documenting it in real time, aka vlogging it, updating you after every book I read, or after a few books I read. So yeah, that unfortunately didn't happen. I wanted to document it in real time, but yeah, the last quarter was kind of a lot, so I'm really glad that I managed to do the reading. And in this video I will tell you how I liked the last 10 books in my TBR. I do have some B-roll, so we will just kind of do it more of a wrap-up style, and also at the end I will wrap up my thoughts and feelings about this project, how it actually went, and what I might be planning going forward. I already have one video up about my thoughts and feelings about Project TBR Zero, which I made like mid-project, so you can go watch that. I think it really sums up like some of the advantages and disadvantages of doing a project like that. And before we dive into talking about the books, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can see what life will look like after I have reached TBR Zero. Okay, so to kick off the second half of my Project TBR Zero, I read Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. This is a young adult contemporary, and we follow 3 Australian friends who go to a con in the States, and we have Taylor. Taylor is autistic and she is super into one of the fandoms that's happening at this con, and she's there with her best friend Jamie, and it's kind of a will they won't they situation between them. But like Taylor values that friendship so much because like both of her friends are super supportive, which was great to see, but she just really doesn't want to do anything that would potentially jeopardize her friendship with Jamie. And the third friend is Charlie, and we also get her point of view. And she is a famous blogger. She recently starred in a film and then went through a very public breakup with her co-star, and now there might be like a sapphic relationship blossoming between her and another YouTuber. So I wasn't really sure if I would enjoy this book that much because like it's about the con and like comics and stuff like that, and those kinds of fandom I'm not necessarily that into, but it was actually really fun. It was super wholesome. I really loved the friend group. They were like, yeah, so nice and so supportive of each other. I love seeing an autistic main character. Taylor already knows about her diagnosis, but she like hasn't really come to terms with it, and she's very insecure about it. And then at the con, one of the vendors she meets and who is selling her comics there, she goes to talk to her, and she finds out that the main character of the comic is also autistic, and as is the author, so she talks to this girl, and it just really helps her to accept her identity more. And yeah, they kind of all go through some sort of growth during this book. So yeah, loved it. 5 stars. I would definitely recommend this. Then I read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So this is a book that I think I kind of tried to read a few years back, but didn't get far and had to return the book to the library. So now I was committed to actually read it. What I didn't know and what I was confused about until like I researched it after finishing this book is that there are very different editions, and the editions basically end at a different point of the story. So I think originally the author wrote it as 2 parts, and then in the US it's often published as 1 part, but this edition only has the 1 part where like I have been spoiled. I think a lot of us have been spoiled for what happens, for like one big thing that happens like near the end, but like it doesn't happen in this because it stops before that part begins. So I was confused the whole time I was reading this. In case you don't know what this is about, this is a young adult classic, and we follow the March family. We have 4 sisters, and the father has been drafted to participate in the Civil War, so it's kind of slice of life, episodic, about how their life is going without the father there. They learn things, they go through some character growth, they form friendships, their personalities sometimes clash. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars, but I have to say that it's like this like perfectly sweet and nice book, to the point that and sometimes it was maybe like a little bit too sweet, but yeah, I can't say like many bad things about this book. I did really like it. I'm super glad I read it because it's kind of part of the cultural scene, because like it's a classic and it's still widely read. So that is very good, but at the same time I don't think I will necessarily continue in the story. So there is like the second part of this of Little Women, and then there are like several other books, and yeah, I don't think I will be picking them up, maybe sometime in the future, but yeah, I think for now I'm good. My next read was Ramona Blue by Julie Murphy, and this is one of the older young adult contemporaries that were super popular at a certain time on BookTube. This came out in 2017, and to be honest, I only got this because it was like super cheap in a secondhand bookstore. In this we follow Ramona and her family, kind of lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. Now they are living in a trailer. The mother is separated from the father, so it's just the father, Ramona, and her sister. Ramona is 17, her sister is a few years older. She's currently pregnant, and the father of the child is like kind of very flaky, and Ramona kind of brings upon her shoulders that she's the responsible one in the family, and she has several part-time jobs, and she has to stick around and not go to college to be there for her sister, etc. She just had a romance with this girl that was vacationing in their town for the summer, but the girl is not out and she doesn't really want to have like a relationship with Ramona, so she's kind of grieving that, but she's also kind of still like trying to make it work. And then her childhood friend named Freddie moves back into the town. Well, he used to like visit with his family when they were like, I don't know, like 10 or 12. Now she hasn't seen him for years, and now he has moved back and feelings emerge between them. So it's a lot about Ramona, like not only dealing with everything that I have mentioned that she's dealing with, but also reframing her identity, because until this moment she thought that she's only into girls, and now she's kind of falling in love with this boy, so she doesn't really know what that means for her identity. So I did really like this book. One thing I will say is that it's over 400 pages, which I think that for a young adult contemporary is maybe like a bit too much, but I really enjoyed following Ramona. We didn't agree on like all of her decisions, and like being stubborn about like being the provider for the family and not like looking after herself, but like we do have some character growth in that. It was one of those young adult contemporaries that like immediately give me this nostalgic feeling, even though they don't necessarily discuss things I could be nostalgic about or like have anything to do with me, well, except for like the growing up in a low-income family. But it's just something about the way it is written and how like the town is described and how the author makes me feel attached to the character. So in this regard it was very successful. I wasn't really around in the bookish spaces yet when this book came out, because like I only started being active like late 2017, I think. So apparently there was some like controversy that I like gathered from the Goodreads reviews, and apparently like some people kind of think that this might be like the case of a book where there is a queer character who is bi or lesbian, and then like a boy comes around and they are like reformed. So this book is definitely not that, but apparently there was still some like confusion about the marketing of this book, because like supposedly it was said that this is like bi representation, and yeah, some people kind of objected against that because like the word isn't even really mentioned, because even though the main romance in this one is between her and Freddie, she like definitely says multiple times that she is definitely still into girls as well, and now she doesn't want to really label her identity, which is completely fine. But yeah, I think that some people expected a different story or like a different representation from this book, which maybe the marketing helped with the confusion. But yeah, this is what the book is, so just take what you will from that. I can't say I was like always like fully on board with the romance, but like they are teenagers, it is messy. So overall I did enjoy it and I gave it 4 stars. Then we have The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and this was such a great one. I'm so glad that the project pushed me to finally read this one. So this book takes place in Georgia in the first half of the 20th century. It is an epistolary novel, so it is all written in letters, and we follow Celie, who lives in poverty, and she is repeatedly raped by the man who is the father figure in her life, and she has 2 children who are taken away. Then she's married off to this man and she keeps being abused by him, so the beginning is very bleak. And then her husband is still in love with his ex, who is a singer named Chuck, and then Chuck gets sick and they basically take her in to nurse her back to health. And Chuck is like a figure in Celie's life who helps her discover her sexuality, both like her personal sexuality and also the fact that she is attracted to women. And the book is just an amazing story of empowerment, what it meant to be black and female and poor at that time, and yeah, discovering yourself, your sexuality and all of that. It's also about the relationship that Celie had with her sister who went to Africa. It did take me a little bit to get into the story because, as I said at the beginning, it is very bleak, but I have to say that like by the second part and by the end it was so worth it to go onto this journey with the characters. I love seeing the other female characters as well and how they kind of propped each other up in their little community. There were some parts that were even funny, like especially when the women talked to men in a way that they deserve to be talked to. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I'm super glad I read it and I would definitely recommend it. Okay, so next I read A Strong Female Character by Fern Brady, and this is her memoir as a late diagnosed autistic woman who has majorly struggled with her life, like from growing up and the school system and trying to get through college and trying to hold down a job, all of that. Now she's a successful comedian. I don't really know her. I was mostly drawn to this book because of the title and because I learned that it is about an autistic woman, and it also came highly recommended. So some people don't really rate memoirs, which is totally valid, and some people just feel that it's like rating someone's life, and I don't really see it that way. Like, no matter what happened in someone's life, they decided to publish a book about it, so you know, the book should be well written and all of that. And also sometimes I read memoirs from people that I don't really know, so I don't really care about their life like to begin with. And I think a sign of like an amazing 5-star memoir is when I don't know the person, so like I don't really care about them like to begin with, but like by the end I think that it is an amazing book and I do care a lot, which wasn't like quite the case. Also, based on some reviews from neurodivergent women, I just thought that this could be like super empowering and I would give it 5 stars, and it wasn't quite that, but like I still liked it. I gave it 4 stars, like I want to say that. I just didn't love it as much as I expected I would. And to be honest, I don't really know how to talk about like why I didn't love it that much, or like some of the things that didn't necessarily sit that right with me, because for one thing, she's a real person, and for the second thing, like we have been through a lot as autistic women, so yeah, I think it might be like better to say less. I'm super glad that it felt empowering and like a great experience for the neurodivergent women, and if you are not a neurodivergent woman, hopefully you learn something. But I also want you to keep in mind that by reading this book you have read about one autistic woman. There were quite a few things that I could relate to and also many things that I couldn't, which is completely fine. It was very readable. I gave it 4 stars, and that is all I will say about this for now. read Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds, and this was my least favorite book from the project, but I still gave it like 3 stars, so by no means I hated this book. So yeah, I'm very happy that the lowest rated book of the whole project was like a solid 3-star book. So this is a young adult contemporary about a boy named Jack. There is a sci-fi twist because Jack keeps like involuntarily going back in time, and he has the opportunity to save this girl that he's in love with named Kate. Kate is ill, and basically she ends up dying multiple times, and then Jack comes back in time, and yeah, he tries to live the few months like again and differently. And this was just fine. Like, the writing was kind of all over the place. The premise, I don't know that I loved it that much, and I didn't warm up to the characters that much. So yeah, I think that the like time travel stories can be really a hit or miss, and I thought that this one just wasn't like executed like super well. But I still had like a decent enough time with it to give it 3 stars. So yeah, we are starting to lose the light today because it's after 4 p.m. and yeah, I do hate the Central European winter with a passion, which is unfortunate because it is my home. But anyway, the next book I read was Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howard, and this book has like a lot of summer and hot settings and all of that, so that was kind of nice. So in this we follow Lucy, who is in high school, and she's growing up in this super small Irish village in the 90s. Lucy is part of this pretty tight-knit friend group of girls, and she kind of feels out of place because she doesn't seem to be interested in boys and marriage with men and all of that stuff. And like, the village is very Catholic, so that is kind of the messaging that is all around, and she just doesn't feel like she wants any of that, and it takes her a while to figure it out that she's actually into girls. But eventually she realizes that she's like absolutely totally in love with one of her friends, and the friend is named Savannah. She also has a best friend named Martin, and everyone is kind of pushing them together. Everyone thinks that they are for sure going to be together, so that's kind of another situation she is dealing with. And yeah, not much happens in this novel. It is very much character-based, slice of life, which I didn't mind. I do like the character-driven books. It's one of the books that, even though we have a teenager as the main character, it is more adult than young adult because of the writing and because of, yeah, how it explores the different themes and all of that. So I would say it is more of an adult novel. So Lucy lives this double life. On one hand, she's trying to be a dutiful daughter and just like, yeah, please the people in her family. And on the other hand, she's having this secret romance with Savannah, and eventually she has to make some very difficult decisions because unfortunately her whole family and like most of the village is like deeply homophobic. So this is really a tough spot to be in. I did really enjoy this. It really takes you on a ride. It is like super angsty and dramatic. I really like the drama and angst of it. I enjoyed following Lucy. At some points I became a little bit frustrated with her, but ultimately I was pretty satisfied how the book handled like the decisions and what actually happened. The writing was great, and some of the quotes, like in the first part when she was like didn't know yet that she's into girls, but like she was starting to suspect. Some of the quotes made me go like, oh my god, because like the Catholic guilt was a lot. So I'm glad I picked it up and I gave it 4 stars. And then I read The Henna Wars by Abida Jaigirdar, and this was the book that stood between me and the last 2 books on my TBR, which were Christmas books. And I really wanted to get to the Christmas books because at this point we were kind of approaching Christmas, and to be honest, like I had quite a few of young adult books in my project TBR and I didn't really feel like reading another one, but it was on my TBR, so I did read it. and I did enjoy it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This actually had some similar themes as Sunburn. So we have Nishat, and she is Bangladeshi Irish. Her family now lives in Ireland, and she's lesbian, and she's not out to her parents, and unfortunately her parents are also homophobic, so at first it really doesn't go well. She's also outed by someone at school, so it is a lot about that. Like, she is pretty comfortable with being lesbian, but obviously like it is a really shitty situation to be in when your family is homophobic and then now you are being bullied at school because of your identity. The plot is that at the school they have some sort of competition and they are supposed to like kind of start a small business for a while, and Nisha really likes to do henna, so she does that. And then there's also Flavia, who is new at school, and she's black and Brazilian, and she teams up with her white cousin, who is kind of known to be racist at school, and they become competitors of Nishat, and they also set up a henna business. So there's kind of a lot of drama and discussion around that. And then it's about like if Nishat and Flavia can kind of recover from all of this drama and potentially start a romance. I did like the development eventually in Nishat's family and also some of the things at school. Reading about like school bullying and school drama isn't necessarily one of my favorite topics to read about, but yeah, I did still really enjoyed it, gave it 4 stars, and I would be up for picking up something else from this author. And then it was finally time to read my Christmas books. At this point I was at my parents' house for Christmas, and I was just so glad that I reached this point in the project, but I really wanted to finish the books before I left my parents' house, because once I leave my parents' house, which is usually like the 26th or 27th, Christmas is over for me and I don't really want to read or have to read more Christmas books. So first I read 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. This is a young adult contemporary, and the premise is that this main character called Sophie just got broken up by her boyfriend, or like she actually did the breaking up, but he was kind of like, oh man, like I'm so bummed that she's actually staying in town, and she and she overheard him, so like she broke up with him, as she should. And she has a really big extended family, so she goes to her grandparents' house, and then the family plots that they are going to send her on 10 blind dates during the holidays, and like surely she will find a new match. So that's what she does, and yeah, it's just a really fun book full of the dating shenanigans, like some good dates, some disastrous dates. We have lost the light, rip light, so we are dealing with the situation. There will be a glare, sorry about that. So yes, very cozy and a lot of fun. There were a couple of situations that like I didn't love, like some toilet humor, but overall it is once again one of those young adult books that gives me that nostalgic feeling and that I could reread. And yeah, I love Christmas books in general, and yeah, this gave me everything that I wanted, so I ended up giving it 5 stars, and yeah, I might reread it sometime in the future. And then, drumroll, the last book on the project was The Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels. So this is an adult sapphic Christmas romance, and it has the exact same plot as Make You Mine This Christmas, which I read 2 years ago at this point. So we have our main character Margot, who is a lesbian, and she works for this guy, and the guy really wants her to go with him to his family for Christmas so that his family doesn't bother him about finding a girlfriend. So that's what they do, and then she meets his sister named Ellie, and she falls in love with her, so it's kind of like they're trying to keep it in secret, etc. Yeah, it's exactly the same as Make You Mine This Christmas, the premise of it, so I couldn't help but compare it while I was reading this. This has an abysmal rating on Goodreads, and at first I really didn't know why, because like the first half was like very solid, very strong, and yeah, I couldn't tell like what people don't like. And then in the second half I understood, but my plot twist is that I still gave it 5 stars. So basically in the second half everything gets kind of very chaotic, very messy. The characters are behaving like erratically, kind of all of a sudden and out of character. Then like there is this like Fast and Furious scene thrown in that, and I enjoyed every second of that. Like it was so fun. But yeah, I would just like recommend it with a caveat that there is a lot of drama and it is messy in the second half. So in this regard, Make You Mine This Christmas is kind of a safer recommendation. Also, every book has something else going for it. So in this book we have like an emotionally abusive ex situation, and there is a lot of kind of good discussion, good info around that. So that was very good. Also, it could be a little bit triggering, so keep that in mind. And in Make You Mine This Christmas, there is disability rep, so the love interest has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and actually the main character is also disabled because she's neurodivergent. Each of these very similar books kind of has something else going than the romance, and yeah, take into account what I said and decide if you want to read this, but I did love it. And that brought me to 0 books on my TBR, yay! So now one of the last things that I want to go through in this video is to see how the second half of the project worked for the Winter Reading Challenge by what Victoria read, because I was also participating in that, and I was very happy that I was able to fit all of the books from the project, I think, into the bingo board, and I didn't even have to like shuffle things around like after the fact, so that was great. So Queens of Geek I put on the international author, which was kind of a, I just couldn't fit it anywhere else. Like the author is Australian, so you know, I most read like British and American authors, so she's international. Little Women went to the Nature on the Cover prompt. Ramona Blue went onto Cold Word in the title, which again was a bit of a stretch, but like cold is a cold word, like it represents like cold water. Your lips turn blue when you're cold, so yeah, again I couldn't do anything else. The color purple went to Random Pick because it was one of the books that the wheel chose for me. Strong female character I put on Face on the Cover. Opposite of Always went to BIPOC author. Sunburn went on the newest book on your TBR, and it was actually the newest book of the whole project, so it was a perfect pick. The Henna Wars went to Finish a Goal, and originally I wanted to fill the Finish the Goal prompt with like the last book on my TBR, but that just didn't work out with the other prompt, so this actually finished the goal of me reading all of the books from 2024 on my TBR, which is a big enough goal, so I just went with that. I put 10 blind dates on the little free space in the middle where you could put anything, and then to wrap it up I put the Christmas swap on green or red on the cover. So in the end I managed to get 4 bingos, which was much more than I expected. So yeah, I had lots of fun with this challenge. I didn't have the mental capacity to participate in any other readathons or read-alongs during the duration of the project, but with this one I could just like have it in the background, and it was very low-key. And so yeah, definitely check out Victoria's channel because she's doing more bingo boards in 2026. So now the very last thing I want to do in this video is to kind of wrap up my feelings about the whole project. So as it did the first time I did Project TBR Zero, which was in 2023, it felt also good to clear out all of the books from my TBR, and also like the timing where it ended like a few days before the end of the year, so I was able to start the new year with a clean slate. Obviously I did get books for Christmas, and there was like 2 days overlap, but I was just kind of pretending the Christmas books don't exist yet. So in my mind I am starting with a clean slate in 2026. So it was a success, but at the same time I don't want to do this anymore, like anytime soon. Like if I never have to do this again, that will be good. But it might happen in the future. But it is like greatly influencing my goals that I'm taking into 2026, which I will make a video about, because yeah, I just don't want to find myself in a situation where I have 20 books on my TBR and, you know, I need to read all of them, because it did become like a bit of a chore. Even though, as you could see in this video and the previous one, I ended up very much enjoying all of the books. Like almost all of them were 4 stars or 5 stars, only one 3-star. So it all made sense, the books that I picked up, you know, and I'm glad I read all of them. But it was a chore, it was a lot, it was restrictive. Sometimes I didn't feel like picking up the books that were left on my TBR, but I'm very glad I did it. And yeah, the only thing is to just take the knowledge from that and behave in a way that hopefully I don't have to do this anytime soon. If you have been with me on this journey, if you watched any of the TBR Zero videos, or if you have supported me during the channel, thank you so much. And we are at the end. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel to see more from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!